Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, and hello, depending on where you are in the world today. My name is Robbi Astral, and welcome to Robbi Tek. Today, what have we got for you? We've got an unboxing video, we've got a case review that we will be doing. I will be shortly doing a build in this case. I needed a new case with a little bit of a better, in my opinion, airflow design than what I've already currently got regarding pertaining to my work system, which is a 3900 XT 12-core 24-threaded AMD processor from the Zen 2 architecture, and currently under strenuous rendering loads, that CPU is getting a belting and it's climbing up to a level where I would prefer it not to be at, and a few degrees cooler would put it in that safety zone where there's no chance of anything actually occurring regarding, corrupted renders and whatnot. So it's brought us to a case unboxing / review. I had to go through budget restraints, so the case that we got in question today is our Master Case h500 ARGB, mind-blowing design according to CoolerMaster Case. Now, on a side note, I've actually got the h500M, and that case is mind-blowing design. This one, on the other hand, I'm hoping lives up to the hype of its predecessor, which is the inflated, more premium product that, generally speaking, gets you to come to their crappier products. I'm hoping that this product is better than the other one I'm currently using, our other CoolerMaster case that hasn't got enough ventilation on the front side, and be quality enough to sustain that PC for the next few years. I know they would have skipped out on some parts, like metals and parts where the IO shield should be like a glass panel. It's instead going to be maybe a metal. How flimsy will it be? How flimsy is the framework itself before the structural integrity of the side panels get boosted? Like, is it really flimsy? Is there a shroud in there that I can hide those things? Where do they cut the corners? We're going to find out essentially as soon as we open her up to begin with. Just before we do so though, CoolerMaster wants to suggest it's got mind-blowing designs, and it's got two front panels essentially. So it's got the option for a glass panel at the front side with mesh intakes from the side. That currently is what I'm pretty much dealing with now. There's not enough air intake. I don't care about the argy-bargy mess essentially that we also get as a bonus with this, because it comes with two 200mm ARGB fans, but it's because of the mesh, and it's cheaper than the fractal design mesh currently in Australia, and this normally goes for about 169 Australian dollars. I picked it up for 149 dollars Australian. Okay, so let us get into the case and have a look at what we're dealing with. It does have the luxury to be Aura Sync, MSI Mystic Light Synced, RGB Fusion 2.0, all the big certified compatibility availability exists for it regarding the ARGB lighting scenario. That is the case with the h500M. How user-friendly this case is, on the other hand, will be another story. We'll see what sort of mess it does involve. On the other hand, it has got USB-C ports like the h500M. It's got USB 3.0, which is 3.1 replacement of 3.0. So I think maximum 5 gigabits a second transfer rates will be available there if tapped in accordingly. You might be bottlenecking yourself in other esteems, like just using a general USB stick or something. But without crapping on for too much longer, let's get into the actual unboxing itself, hey guys. So I just literally pulled my hand, I believe. So got myself a had this for years, you know, and it's like a Stanley stainless steel, but it's made by King Chrome, and I don't know where I got it from. I think an uncle gave it to me. It's very very precise, and it's going to be a new little unboxing tool, so hopefully I don't cut myself. Essentially, before we continue, we will just establish that the net weight of the box itself, or the gross weight, is 10.67 kilograms. The net weight is 9.22 kilograms, and the bezel colors are iron gray, and where I'm expecting it to be, and the body color is black with a left side panel, tempered glass, I/O port, USB 3.0, two of them, USB 2.0, two of them. I wish they would get rid of no 5.25 inch bays anymore, unfortunately. 3.5 inch bays, there's two of them. SSD bays, there's two of them. Pre-installed fan of a 120mm fan, which is probably your exhaust in that regards. And there is also your two 200mm RGB fans, which are otherwise known as ARGB, not just RGB fans. It's something to be specifically noted. Others, PSU and power cord is not included, so if it's got this included, then I'll be flipping the hell out, because they've clearly stuffed something up. And the model, on the other hand, the model number for you to specifically look it up is your h500 IGNNSO1, so MCM h500 IGNNSO1, otherwise known as your h500 Master Case ARGB CoolerMaster series. Alright, let's get into the unboxing. Okay, what's in the box? In the box today, I don't want to go too deep, but this serrated knife looks cooler on camera, but it's sort of a little bit useless, frankly. So we start off with cost cutting on the box itself. No frills, brown paper bag box. Brown paper bag. Brown paper bag. But yeah, we'll find out. Hopefully, there's, you know, that means they spent more money on the actual item itself. Because if I was to show you guys, I've still got the h500 M box. It's literally in the cupboard just behind me there. Very difficult to get out currently. They went all hell for leather on the box as well, you know, completely printed out, completely done up, you know, in that regards. We're gonna close that up, and yeah, let us see what's in the box, guys. So first things first. No, I haven't been snorting cocaine. I just wanted to get that first scent of, is it technology? What is the smell? You know, is it Corona? Who the hell knows? We're gonna find out, hopefully not. But look, to be brutally honest, looks very promising, just packaging wise in general, from the onset. Alrighty. So as you can see, we open up and we've already got neatly packaged, I believe they will be our front side panels and whatnot. So yeah, let us continue on with unpackaging this Oakley Dokley. So first things first, I'm going to lift that up and we'll pop that aside over here. So what we've got here first is, I believe it's going to be the front panel. Unfortunately, it's not glass, it's plastic. I was expecting it to be glass. That's not going to be utilized because I'm going to be using the thingo, but plastic means a little bit warmer than glass is itself. Completely sealed up though, and not going to get scratched up. So considering it's plastic, it's more softer and more abrasive in that regards. There is a chance that will get that will occur. So we'll move that aside over here for the time being. And next things next, we literally can see the CoolerMaster logo and the fine mesh that it is that they're using for the front side. So I'm going to flip her over and we're going to open the box. Probably doing it from upside down would be the easier option. So you can see over here what I'm going to be dealing with. So I'm hoping that that's going to support the two sides of styrofoam as we lift it out upside down, and then we'll flip it back across and overwards. Okay, let's go. Let's lift it. Come on. Come on. Oh wait, we've got one bit exposed here. Alright, come on, let's lift it up. Alrighty. Make sure that we don't lose it. Anything fall, anything hidden. Okay. Let us pop this box down here. Okay, so with that being said, definitely got a glass panel, and the metal itself I'm feeling isn't as sturdy as the one on the H500M. There's also a price differential of about an extra $200, frankly. What we can do here is we're greeted with, this is the top side of it. So you can see the CoolerMaster, it's got additional covering. They've gone out of their way for the price level. They've gone out of their way, I believe, to not have it get damaged in any way, shape or form. It's quite well packaged. Spend about $20 or $30 less, and you'll see a big difference in what's going on there as well. So we're going to lift it out of its spot here as well. And then I've found us the Master Case h500 ARGB Make It Yours user manual version 1, and it's got all the pre-installed, it's mentioning it's got the pre-installed fan hubs and whatnot as well, and ARGB inclusive. So this will be interesting. We'll have a quick look at what it is. We'll have a quick look at the instructions themselves, and there's also warranty information, just to see if there's anything specific that we need to be aware of. It's showing two 140mm fans. That's going to be wrong. The option for a two 200mm fan on the top side showing you. So let's get into it. Okay, putting that aside for the time being, let us uncover our case and give it breathing room to shed its light upon us and whatnot. Alrighty. So it's got that new smell, that's for sure. Like chemicals. So first things first, we've got what is essentially a placed handle that can aid you in lifting, but it's not centered very well, and it never will be, unfortunately. So how good that will be another question in itself. Front panel, on the other hand, as opposed to the plasticky one I've got that was about 120, which is the ARGB, as opposed to the MasterBox MB520 edition. It is not as good as the H500M, but definitely the IO shield here. You know, you got some 3.0 ports. 2.0 is sort of useless, but button clicky, but maybe a bit loose. Might be an annoying feature, but definitely a bit more rigidity. How this exactly comes out is another story. The fact that it's got the higher airflow on it, it's got that mesh which is very similar, and they always put the CoolerMaster logo there. Two 200mm fans. So are these fans going to be the same fans that I took out of the H500M? Do I lie? No, I don't. I've got the two 500M fans. So there's another option of also top side. I believe you got enough space for you've actually got enough space for a 200 on the top side. So now I might have the luxury of being able to, if there's enough headers for the ARGB on the board, to actually have three 200mm fans running in the case, let alone maybe even four, depending on where I want to go and how I want to go with this. Now, essentially, coming back to why I got this, I do need something with freer flowing air. So this clearly, you know, matches the description. It can be easily cleaned with any dust. That's an effective dust filter, the mesh itself, but not overly restrictive that it won't allow for air to go through it. And because of that, it hasn't got any additional filters on top of it, from what I can notice at the very least, and from what I'm used to with the H500M series. Also, it seems like there's quite a massive bottom intake area, which would be good for the power supply if it's facing downwards. I unfortunately have got a thermal take ARGB plus A50, where I do like it facing upwards, but because of the performance factors I require from this build, all ARGB is just a bonus if I can get it to work in unison, and a compromise I will have to make for cooling purposes as a priority longer term. Okay, it is essentially the piece that goes under the desk near the window, so during winter it gets cool air coming in on a continual basis, but during summer, on the other hand, right now I am baking in this, and there won't be relief until tomorrow, but that's why another reason I want to set this up today and get eventually the computer into it, so that I can re-render the same 3-hour footage that I put up of one of my most recent videos, which is on Robbi Tek, and just re-render it and see what sort of temperatures I'm getting once everything's up to temperature and actually operating, not just, you know, R15 runs and going, oh, that passes, that works well, you know, but, you know, more practical applicatory tasks here, you know. So yeah, so at first glance, got a little metal magnetic dust cover top side. Metal seems a little bendy, but there's enough rigidity in general that nothing seems to be warping, and that's probably because of the case itself. Now, has it got a peel on it? I'm just trying to work out if it hasn't got a peel. I have to be very vigilant about it. Does have a peel, so I'll leave the peel for the time being until I'm ready to roll with it. In the meantime, that's once the build's actually done is when I'll take the peel off, not for the purpose of the unboxing itself, but because once I'm done with the computer and the build's done, then I'll take that peel off there. Okay, but we will open it up and have a closer look at what's in the master box, essentially. What's in the box? In the box. So we'll start off with, we do have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 PCIe slots available for ATX motherboard. It is a mid-sized case in that regards. It's not completely fully large, so you know there will be a little bit of squeezing about trying to get things to fit the right way the first time, rather than relying on additional space from a massive case. What we will do is I just need a flathead. Do I not have a flathead available here? Do I not have a flathead available here? Oh wait, the flathead's right over here, guys. So here's the flathead. Alright. Alrighty, so let's open up the glass panel and have a closer look. It should go clockwise just a little bit. Unfortunately, it's not like the MB250 or whatever it is, RGB case. That's got nuts. This got more premium sort of a nut which requires a flathead, but that should be enough to, really, it actually has a thread in. It should just be a halfway job. Now tell me this thing comes out completely. It should just sort of stay on. Okay, I think they have to be completely unscrewed. Yikes. That's going to be annoying because you can sort of scratch shit up quite easily. The thread itself, they don't completely pop out though, but they do have to be unscrewed a fair amount of distance. Okay, there we go. And then we'll just lift that up. So having a look on the side here, it does have little grooves and latches which are quite sturdy. There is a bit of weight behind this tempered glass thinger. It's got a black border along the sides of it, and the screws won't completely come out. They've got stoppages on one side here. So we'll put this into a safe place on the side over here. And now we can go have a look inside the case itself. So what we've got is, I'll just check all standoffs, make sure that they are in place. They are. Okay, before we open up the back panel, there's a little shield. There doesn't seem to be a full-size shroud, which is a drawback from the MB250 range. That actually still has a full-size shroud. I'm actually thinking there's a chance that I might be able to utilize certain componentry from that, but unfortunately it depends on whether this comes out for the power supply itself. It seems like there's a spot for it to slot out, and I think, yeah, so we'll get to it. We won't break it apart completely, but it's got your CoolerMaster 2.5 inch trays. Unfortunately, it hasn't got here on the side the availability to be able to put some 2.5 inch SSDs onto this. Would have been nice as well. A couple of thread points, because that's going to limit me in what essentially I want would be a storage computer. But the other option is I've got a spare one of these CoolerMaster, so maybe they're stackable. I should have another two of them. So this is from the h500 and it's a bit more, the metal seems a bit more rigid, frankly, but it's got the same stackable, it's got potential to be stackable. At the very least, it'll be the most uniform thing I'll be able to do once I've got a fair amount of this in there. I wanted to get, I've already got two 2TB hard disks on the base minimum that, and 2 NVMe drives, but I wanted to get another 2 2TB to have 8TB of space on the general in a RAID array 0 fashion for speeds of read and write speeds on those mechanical hard drives of up to SSD levels at the very least. So it's, this option here may be able to, we will unscrew it where applicable, and we'll work on how far we can get down into it and pull it apart to see. So at first glance, we've got the back exhaust as well. Nothing special regarding this fan itself. So this is going to have to be replaced with a static fan that I'm going to use. I'm going to be using an air cooler, Dark Rock Pro 4 cooler with 1, 2, 3 fans and one placed right up against the exhaust here. So there'll be 2 static fans moving on the exhaust part of the cooler itself, and the computer case itself. Non-RGB black backside one, no space for a 140 unfortunately. Really? Yeah, there's no space for a 140 as well. The option does not exist in this PC. It will be very tight. There should be space for the HD audio plugs and whatnot to come through just through the base itself. On the other hand, cabling itself, okay, I found a blemish which I'm looking at. It looks like a melted bit. Something touched it and melted it. It looks like a manufacturing fault. That should not be there, definitely. It's not a screw or anything like that. Point. So designed by CoolerMaster. On the other hand, the 200mm fans are your MF200 ARGB CoolerMaster fans. They can get some really nice effects on them. The only problem you find with them is that they're 12 volts at 0.42 amps. The only problem is that I think they can only spin at a maximum 800 RPM. I would have loved the option of these to be able to spin up to 1000 RPM or 1200 RPM, because then, you know, compromising on sound quality, you'd be able to get some really, really good performance. But the nature of the 200mm fans is there's always continuous intake going, regardless of how you don't actually physically feel it coming in. There is a current that's occurring, and that's all you sometimes need, and that's why they're liked as opposed to 3120s or 4120s, because the sound isn't as deafening when to get the same amount of air movement occurring. It's almost like an illusion which you have to sort of acknowledge, otherwise it just doesn't make sense to you, because you know, I'm just like, you know, I like putting the fan on and feeling the fan. You know, if you have a big fan, everything's moving in the room, but you're not actually feeling the fan. Do you get me? Okie dokie, so let's put some lighting on the back and have a look at what we're dealing with regarding the I/O port and whatnot, and the front headers. Okay, so we do have some thumb screws here, but they are overly tightened to begin with, so we're going to have to loosen them up a smidget. And loosen that one up a smidget. And these do not come out the whole way. They're those thin to thick ones, so it's something to note, that you don't have to take them out the whole way. I actually don't like these sort of screws because they do eventually sort of stuff up a little bit, but less chance of losing them. And we'll pop up the side, and the side is somewhat reinforced, but still flimsy on the center part. So it's getting to a better quality standard. For the price, it's probably right there. We'll pop this aside, as in, you know, value and what you'd expect. So we've got our I/O, so we've got our cables, front cables. That's just latched in here. Just double check everything. Make sure everything isn't, that's going to be a USB 2.0 I'm guessing. So the problem I'm seeing is you've got the factor that you've got the 200 mil fan intakes, right? But all the paneling and the side paneling regarding it, if you have a look over here, half of it's being covered up. Do you get me? Half of it's covered up so that it can accommodate for radiators and 240 mil radiators and 360 mil radiators and whatnot. So the question is, how effective are the 200 mil fans then, as opposed to having, you know, 120s coming in front side bus in that regards, especially if you can have those 120s going at over 2000 RPM if you really need some subsequent cooling and whatnot. Interesting, guys. So I'm just going to check the quality there. Alrighty. So I'm going to undo just to check the quality of the cabling itself. I'm going to pull that out. I've got a satchel, a dry satchel, and everything is neatly wrapped on itself to a nth degree, as you can see here. Dry satchel. I will take this out, even though it could be potentially reused. I'll use actual cable ties, not metal cable ties that could cause a short one day in the future if overly tightened, but I will keep it aside for later on. Okay, so backside on the other hand, we do have space for some SSDs, which is nice. So we do have two spaces for two SSDs at the very least. So that would have to be, for maximize space in this computer, I'd have to get two 2 terabyte SSDs. Hopefully get some 860s still while they're popular, because the new ones are just a rip off, frankly. Having a look underneath, we will have, so I will place that back into there for the time being, and we'll have a look underneath. I believe there's a dust card available for under the power supply. Also, I want to make sure that those RGB cables stay sort of together. If I lift this up here, there is a dust guard. Is there a finer mesh? Also, there's rubber bits on either side of the, which if you probably loosen off, that's where you'll get that. That's where you'll be able to undo the actual thingos themselves. Also, the guard, I believe, just comes out like so. So you'll be able to wash that every now and then, and you'll definitely want to put it back in, because it isn't like the mesh on the front side of the case itself. It's quite opened up, so depending on how much dust you have and how, you know, I've got a smart fan in regards to the one that's in the power supply in the 850 watt in that work machine, so more than likely when it's idling, it's at 0 RPM anyway. The only problem is I actually would like to showcase it and have it upside down, so the question is whether we can take this out itself and Alright, we'll move that to the side here. We've already lost one of the RGB connection points. I believe that was part of this here, and that should be lined up with an arrow on the way you do it, even though there's only one way you can do it. These are 5 volt, not 12 volts, so you, ooh guys, I would have done it the wrong way around. That'll be connected up like so. Definitely I disconnected that. I will double check later on. And there are some additional zip ties that come pre-packaged. So we've got a case glass cleaner, I believe, enough zip ties to keep you happy. all the mounting screws that will be required. There's also a CoolerMaster logo of sorts, so we'll get that. The silica bag itself I'll pop aside over here. Before we get to what's exactly in the bag itself, we'll go through the cables and we'll just make sure that they're of a high quality and standard that is not currently broken, and we'll unwind them a little bit. Okay, so first things first, this is our clearest our USB 3 port connection, double the speed phase, so okay. This will be our USB 2.0 connection. I'll pop that to the side there. This is our HD audio connection for our jacks on the front. And then luckily we haven't got any herb and mustard anymore regarding front panel connectors. So everything is black but labeled. Reset switch, power switch, just double checking power LED, negative and positives, HD LEDs, so that's all well done. Also something to note with these, try not to fondle on the ink too much, especially if you're going to be using the case over and over, because you can rub that stuff off quite easily. But we'll pop that aside there, and then that leaves us with our optional / RGB and fan mess. That starts to become a little tedious at times. I'll just get a visual myself on how it's actually operating. So that's for topside RGB and topside fan connection. Going to RGB, going to a CoolerMaster connection itself, which ASRock Aces, so Aces MSI, it'll go into the 5-volt RGB connection on the motherboard itself here. It's also got a gigabyte variety or an ASRock Aces MSI variety, so 2 of them. So that's how I would see that go. On the other hand, it seems like this case, if you go then, that's top side. Bottom side on the other hand, you should have exactly the same / that going towards that, and the fan itself going to it's a bit twisted here unfortunately. I'm gonna have to pull that out because the fan itself has to go to a header that's PVM connected, otherwise it's going to be running at 100%, and it's a little bit twisted here unfortunately, the fanage stuff, so we're going to have to split that up and get it into a better position. The easiest way to do this will probably be to unhook that there for the time being and then rehook it back up like so. Again, this one can be unhooked, pulled around here, pulled out of here and pop back in there, and now we've got a clear as day 2 fan / ready for a fan connector, and also can be still cherry picked, linked with an additional connection itself. So that's for fans / bottom and top, not exhaust. Exhaust on the other hand can slot into this as well as a 3-pin, and then that can go onto the applicable header on the board itself, so you can control all of them. I would not do that because the varying speeds will vary, and unless it's on a percentage basis. So that for the time being I'll pop aside like so as well. Now we'll go back to the question here, which is what's covering this? I think this is additional linkage, which means there might be a chance that I will be able to, that goes to the board. That's as simple as it is. Okay, that means I can cherry link the additional 200mm fans itself, or any other addressable ones to this also. So they conveniently provided that luxury with a 5V connection, providing I've got that 5V connection available. So we shall pop this aside over here for the time being, and now we'll have a look at what's inside the bag itself. So far for the price, I'm not expecting to be disappointed, but I'm not also expecting to be mesmerized. And so far the build quality is sufficient enough for my liking, that I'm going to be, and I'm thinking performance wise it's going to be exactly what I'm after regarding airflow. So got a nice little CoolerMaster cloth, which I can use to clean my glasses with, microfiber cloth, but also will wipe down at the end. That's why I'm leaving the peel to the end regarding it, regarding this anyway, so that I don't mess it up or scratch it up. So we'll pop that aside over here as well. Actually, we'll pop it aside over here, put everything out of the way, and we'll have a closer look at, so about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, about 10, 12 zip ties as well. You can never have too many of those. We've got something interesting here though, which is an additional RGB. So that's what we're looking at, is the SATA connection for the ARGB if we're not connecting it via motherboard. So before we look at that, we do have additional fan mountage points, screws, black screws for the PCIe slots, as well as more fan, black mounting fan spots. We do have a cap, which is for mounting pressure, I believe, regarding the standoffs themselves. I'm not 100% sure on that cap there. So definitely got everything we're going to need. We've got spare standoffs even, varying sizes, and smaller black screws for the motherboard itself, so that they're not too wide that you will potentially shorten something. So that's nice. And here on the other hand, we've got, if we were not to be addressing the RGB through the motherboard itself, I believe is the unit that will allow you to control, so which can be also set up at the same time, I'm guessing. So that would go into, no, this is long, so that's for more. On the other hand, this would go into this, and if you don't have a RGB header on your motherboard, and this would go into, say, your SATA power, and that would enable you to switch power. So that's the power switch. And also there's a little 2-pin connector where you would take your reset switch, IO front side reset switch, and you would place it into here then, and that would enable you to be able to press the reset switch for changing the RGB, rather than having to open up the case and press this button instead, if you're inclined to do something like that. I think I've got a reset switch on my motherboard itself, so I might be inclined to do something like that as an additional option. This is for, but I might not have to use this to begin with, which is something we'll get to and consider. I prefer the full customization that's available on these, and I should have at least, I should at the very least have one 5V available to run with regarding RGB on my motherboard. Okay guys, so that's the cable mess itself. So we'll fix this up ever so slightly for the time being. it does, like, the annoying thing about RGB cables is they come apart so easily, and there's so much metal around the case where it can just short them out, that they should have little, like, you have to sort of tape them up, frankly, to be brutally honest. Yeah, you have to tape them up, otherwise when you're setting things up, they come apart very easily. So I'm going to grab now back that long connection for the time being to keep this loop tidy. Okay, and I'll move it over here for the purpose of now finding out how much flexibility we've got regarding the shroud itself. So I will perhaps leech this over here so that I'm not slicing anything up. Okay, and then we'll go back to this side here. First things first, can we remove the HDD? That comes out by itself. There's a screw down over here, which again is too rigidly done first time around, so I'll have to loosen it, but it's a thumb screw as well. Oh, there's the disconnect on it, and that comes then. Is there another screw on the back side to it? There's another screw backside to it as well. So I will pop that back into place so that I don't lose anything. Okay. Now if we go backside to it, there's a couple of screws just here. There's actually 3, so which one's connected to what is going to be another story. So we've got 2 connected to the shield itself. That's going to cover a lot of the cable mess coming through, and that can be removed, I believe. On the top it's just clipped in, so yep, that can be removed if need be, which means we may be able to stack the hard drives themselves, which we'll need to remove that to get it flush to be able to stack it. But before we do that, I'll see if we can stack it by removing the bottom one, which is on this side holding the hard drives in stably, and we'll get a better idea later on whether. Okay, so pop this screw over here, and now this should just pull out accordingly. I'll have a look underneath here whether there's anything that I should be made vigilant of. How much space is there a way of popping it under? It's a little annoying that they could have just extended this shroud a little bit further. Now there's a chance that the cheaper one itself has got an extended section. Also, I do have the extended section to this, to the more expensive variety also. Where that is another story. Cut a long story short, now at the very least, this is slightly different to this, but the one that I have in the other CoolerMaster case may be the same as one of these, so it'll allow for stacking, a lot cleaner stacking. This on the other hand is not going to be perfect in that regard or that esteem. It's locking it in this spot here, which is just going to be too deep pertaining to that part, but I probably want to set it up sooner rather than later, because what that'll mean is the ability to essentially not have to pull everything apart completely again. But we'll see how we go with the other one. Okay, so keeping those aside for the time being, we've got one other thing to check out, and that's whether the shroud itself can be removed. It looks like, plastically wise, the shroud itself seems like it's been under some duress. Maybe a paint job on it would be an option. They've actually edged in on plastic, so the shroud is plastic. Is it? No, it's, yikes. Okay, so can we just slide this across? Is it screwed in anywhere down here? I believe not. So it should, in theory, it may be screwed into the back side here. So if it doesn't pull across, it's not pulling across. I believe this one screw here is what's holding it in place. So we'll undo that, pop that over here, and now I've got a feeling that this will just, like it did, unlock itself and come out accordingly. So that is just plastic, and you can see what I'm talking about here. It seems to be a blemish hole, like right there. So the question is, the power supply I have is quite nice eye candy, frankly. It may be an option not to cover it up and have it depending on what sort of what I've got around it. At the moment I'm utilizing a 1050 Ti, and I do need a new graphics card in that workstation PC. If I had a more heavily reliant on cooling graphics card being utilized, then I definitely have the power supply facing downwards, but there won't be too much heat generated from that graphics card itself in this system. So pulling some of that heat from inside is slightly helpful. I can see on that thermal take, it's got monitoring software availabilities and whatnot. I can see exactly how many RPMs the power supply is running at and whatnot. So yeah, I don't see, and I can see how hot it is. So it doesn't seem to be struggling in its current position in regards to the power supply. On the other hand, the CPU needs some adequate cooling coming through it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're definitely going to undo that CoolerMaster back 120. So you've got dampeners on the power supply section where the power supply will sit, and they'll sit at raised as well, but also dampeners that prevent any more vibration from occurring. So I'm going to pull this shield off here. It's going to expose the backside regarding cord management, but depending on how high I stack this, yes, that'll inhibit the direct airflow, but I'm saying all I've got available is about this much airflow on the current case that's running that 3900 XT. So all this opened up, it will be so much better. It doesn't mean that those drives will be hot. That doesn't necessarily mean they'll all be utilized at the same time, so they won't be running hot. So that should be fine, even though, and what we'll do is we'll see if we can stack those effectively, which means essentially it will hide those gaps that we have available here anyway. So one screw, already feel it coming loose. Two screws, pop these aside over here, and now I believe this part here should just, there are more screws holding it in place. Another one, and top side is just a clip. So another one more screw here, and that leaves us with this part easily dismountable. This is otherwise made out of aluminium / metal composite, as you can hear. Does leave it slightly untidy work, but also gives us the space to sort of work out whether we can stack these or not. So I'll pop this aside over here, and now we'll go with the original that would slide in here. That would be the original. I've got maybe another one like that, or maybe another one like this. I'm hoping another one like this, which means it's stackable and it's from the same era. And this one's more from the H500 that hasn't even got any spindle drives in it currently. This will just work. How I'll lock it in is another story, even if the other one doesn't match it better still. it will definitely work. Although cable management will be another story in itself, it will be inhibiting the viewpoint on those cables themselves. So depending on where I've got that 3.0 header and everything else where I've got it wired through, it's going to be another story in itself. The other option, because you can see that those grommets get covered up then quite easily, and there might not be much space, especially if you've got drives coming through there. The other option is, can this be spaced and moved along accordingly? It seems like there's 1, 2, 3, there's at least 3 sections which may allow for maneuverability, and then over here you've got a little section here which may be allowable for the same screw to be mounted on, as opposed to here, over here. So I'm going to just see whether moving it in that little bit closer is possible. If it wasn't for those tabs, I could get rid of the tabs. It will allow for flexibility. That will be center. That would still allow for space, but there'd be a little bit more airflow coming in. I'll see whether I can hook that down, and it's just dependent on what's in the other CoolerMaster, if this will hold downwards. We'll have to see when we get to it, because there is 3 screw points here as well which can essentially stabilize it. There's also locking mechanisms as well, so I'm guessing that this can go this way essentially as well. The other option is can we get anything to, how's this one going to be foreseen here? We can get a screw directly in on that spot right here, get that directly in there, and then I believe this screw will go top side into that. No, it won't. That might be a cleaner image. It just might have to be like tape glass. I prefer the top to be non-hold, so like so. That's completely lined up as well. The question is whether I can screw it in effectively or not. But that will be a cleaner image, because top there with that light coming through will be non-holy in that regards. And then we've got another one that will stack on top of that as well, potentially, or cleaner regarding how we have it stacked. I could bend this downwards, or bend it on itself, be another option. So let's move these out now to the side, and that's a complete dissection of the case itself, guys. Up until the point of taking this fan off, which I think I will take the fan off now as well. I'm going to keep the RGB. I'm going to double check the model number, whether the H500M has got slightly better ones or not. MF200 ARGB, MF200 ARGB, 800 RPM, 800 RPM DC, 12 volt at 42 amps. They seem like they're exactly the same, no compromise. It is a shame that the connection points on them, half the fans aren't really effectively bringing air in, which is idiotic in its design here. I'll definitely put a top side one made out exhaust. Whether it fits 2 is another story. I don't believe it does fit 2. I think it will only fit 1. Will it even fit 1? Very annoying, because it has to be
flashbang in the center, like why you wouldn't allow for it to be moved down to here. Get a better visual on this. You're not going to see much anyway, but you do have the luxury of definitely one specifically from the front side being put as a top rear. Question is whether you want to go down that route is another story, because you're sort of inhibiting, you're sort of required to put it in the center per se. So the other option is, if I want to get real crazy, is I can probably get away with putting this Antec. This fan on the other hand is insane. I can just feel that coming through now. Like this Antec fan, look, it just keeps moving. Actually moves the most air a 200mm fan has ever been recorded moving on a commercial level. And it's DC operated, surprisingly Molex operated. You just have to put it on high. It's good for overclocking and whatnot, but maybe this might be an option regarding the amount of cooling potential I need to be exhausted if it is forgiving enough. Not every case can accommodate this fan, that's for sure. I will be bending things out of the way. Will that CPU pin make it over the top side there? That's the other thing I'm worried about. And if I push that in, what am I bending out of place? It will still work. There's nothing I'm bending out of place. So I'm going to try to push it in for a split second and see whether this gives us a better option. It will have to roughly go in on this level here. Come on. Come on, baby. It needs to get in about just a smidge. There we go. It doesn't even need mounting, but there we go. Spots actually line up for a change as well for it. But it does warp that out a little bit. See what happens now with this. Now I feel a lot less worried about having the top dust cover on, because it'd be forcing a lot of air through regardless. Problem is it's Molex driven. I won't get the RGB effect, but the performance will be utilized, and I will lose my ability to have it as an overclocking fan. But if we have a look now, that'll go backside up here through there, and that'll easily get hidden away. The question is, the other option is the 200mm fan itself, or just some 120s, or not even needing one on top, providing the exhaust is adequate. But I want that cooler just being ripped apart, like air just being pulled away from it and out of the case from around it. That'll work much better, I think, black-white top side rather than the back side of an RGB, even though it's ARGB, and it will look nice. You can probably agree that the front side looks nice when it spins, as you can see, but the back side, on the other hand, not as forthcoming because of those braces and whatnot. Something I'll have to consider as well. I could. So, all in all, guys, for $149, if I wasn't Australian, I wouldn't spend more. I think it's a decent case for what you're going to be getting. Regarding the fans that are included as well, with a little bit of tweaking, you can probably get something a lot more performance driven. How it's going to be building in it overall is going to be our next step. And this has been the h500 ARGB Master Case unboxing video. Be sure to hit the like and or subscribe button for our next video. Especially coming up will be the first build in it. Okay guys, that'll be a 3900 XT system, ready to rock and roll, and be transferred into it for some better cooling potential. Yeah, so peace out guys.